All right. Thank you for joining us. We took a little break and we're happy to be back. I am Kyle Woods and you are watching and listening to Through the Woods. And today I have a couple special guests, and the level of expertise of these two sitting across from me is far beyond the ability for me to ask all the intelligent questions. So you guys are lucky today to get to listen to these two, because they are going to do primarily most of the talking, which is how we like to do it anyway. But sitting across from me, and for those watching on video, I'm going to point at them. So I have Andrew Cull. And Andrew, you need to say something in case someone's not watching and they're listening.
Thank you for having us on, Kyle.
All right, so we got Andrew's voice, and then I have Steve McCormick.
Hello.
Yes.
How are you?
So Andrew is the founder and CEO of Agema.
Agema.
Yeah. Gosh dang it. Sorry, folks. We practiced this several times before we started today, and I still couldn't get it right. And then Steve McCormick is I have it as engineering and development.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about this name before we get going down the road. Where'd this name come from?
So you actually pronounced it correctly. It's Agema. It's a Greek word, and it comes from the Macedonian army. It was a small special unit that guarded high value assets. And so they escorted the king into battle, and they guarded things that were really important. And so we adopted the name because we're a small team that generally guards high value assets and solves hard problems.
I like it. So then let's just, before we get diving into who you guys are and your background and all that stuff, just so people that are just started listening, just kind of give us a quick 30,000 foot overview of who you guys are. And then we'll get back into everything about your company.
Go ahead.
Sure. We our main tagline is we solve problems. We like solving problems, and so that includes a variety of things for strategy and technology and business strategy. So kind of all aspects of a business.
Okay. To help them in
software development, website development, brand development, a variety of levels.
Okay. So a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I generally don't like to compare other companies to anybody, but for those that are listening, it's kind of like if you've ever seen, it's not like the show Profit, but it's kind of like that same idea of these guys are here to really try to help a business that could be struggling, that could be stagnant, or just really wants to grow or can't figure out some of the things that are going on, and it's keeping a business owner up at night to try to help them with solutions and get them moving down the road. That kind of be...
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah, just the first grade
exactly
explanation of it,
yeah.
Right? Okay, well, perfect. So that kind of gives us an idea of what we're going to talk about today. So let's just start. Andrew, we'll start with you. Just tell us about your background. Where'd you get started? Where'd you get going? Where'd you come from? All
right.
So
I'm a transplant to Idaho, like most people. And we moved here about 5 years ago, originally from Seattle. And so I got a degree in Middle East Studies and pre-med, and then immediately started a business, realizing I wasn't going to go to medical school. The company was called Remote Medical International, which grew to a very large organization supplying medical supplies, medics, doctors, nurses to defense and oil and gas clients mostly, as well as global medical evacuation and insurance. I sold that company in 2013 with, I think we had about 200 employees at the time, and retired for 2 weeks and realized that I was 35 and didn't know really what I wanted to do and had all this extra time. And my wife volunteered me as a turnaround CEO to one of her friend of a friend's companies that was a software company. And so I started a career doing turnarounds primarily for investors at the time. In between that, I started a couple of nonprofits and other companies. And so I've been a serial entrepreneur, but what my real passion has been operational efficiency and figuring out how with a small team of people you can solve really difficult in challenging problems like global medical evacuation, or how do you supply medical care in Iraq and Afghanistan, down to data science and programming problems. So that's always been my passion, and it's how Agema Labs was born.
So you've always had this entrepreneur blood in you from the beginning.
Yeah, probably more of a need to fix problems. Like I like hard problems that are challenging, and so I'd say that's primarily my driver, more so than entrepreneurial things. I like efficiency. I like fixing hard things, and so that's what gets me out of bed in the morning and makes me excited to come work with a team like Steve and crew.
Yeah. So then, from running your own companies, as we'll get going through this process, like a lot of these ideas came from the struggles that you had while starting your businesses. And
Yeah, and
business
mostly from the time it takes. Starting a company, we talked about this a little bit, but it's not easy, and especially now with the complexity of OpenAI and Amazon and competitors that have billions of dollars in data. It's not a small thing to start a company, and so as an entrepreneur, even if you've started companies before, there's a massive learning curve required to be successful. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, me included, will start and spend years and years struggling or not growing as fast as they could. So over the past 7 years, we've worked directly with companies and business owners and investors to come in and help companies that have generally been either struggling or on the verge of bankruptcy or not meeting the expectation of their investors. And so these were really expensive turnarounds, but with our collective experience and problem solving ability, we could generally put those companies back on track. So we're 33 out of 35 successful turnarounds, and some of them have been really dramatic. But if we can solve for a business owner, especially a founder, because we're passionate about that, if we can condense the amount of time it takes to scale, then they're successful faster and growing faster and generally, ahead of the competition, but also free to make the right, strategic decisions as they move forward, because the stress of that kind of startup phase can be over.
So I wasn't really planning on asking this, but it is hot in the news, and when you said it, it just made me think about this, is that AI, like how reliable, how much do people really feel like they can trust it, right? That's what they need to move towards to help them out with things.
I got a blog post that I'm writing up. Yeah, it's very, there's kind of like AI fanboys who are like, look at this, it's going to revolutionize everything. And I think it will. I think the right way to look at it, it's a tool. It's a pretty advanced tool that it will only get better. I don't think it's going to replace humans. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom about that. It's a different in kind thing, and humans are pretty unique. So, but it's going to shake up. I mean, we were just talking about education. Like there was a learning disabled person who was on Twitter saying, this AI helped me a better way to learn. I was like, whoa, that's going to disrupt a lot of educational processes. So it's going to shake things up quite a bit.
I think fundamentally, I think we are going to see a revolution in the way that people produce anything. For example, customer service, we were working with today. AI has some amazing capability to enhance customer service, but then it also is pretty simplistic in other areas. So I don't foresee AI taking the place of people anytime real soon, but improving productivity. Like, for example, I use OpenAI or an AI to task block my calendar every day. So based on priorities and changing client requirements, my calendar will fill up and move. And if somebody needs to book an appointment, it will push other things and organize tasks. So I get a lot more done now because there's a system in the background and I'm focusing my day on the highest priorities and keeping everything else out of my way until I need to see it. And that type of productivity boost, I would say probably 25 to 50%. Is pretty unbelievable if you think about the speed at which that came into play. Yeah. Or, in the insurance business, look at ability of an actuary or somebody to process an application.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably for some people there is a fear that your job could go away, that eventually this will take it over.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably talk all day on AI, and that's probably not exactly.
Just bring us back.
Yeah.
So it does, I think, to bring us back. The issue, I think a lot of people expect, and we had a client accuse us of this last week. We were building business processes in a playbook for them, which takes a lot of work to find an efficient process to implement in a company. So we've been working on this for 2 months, and they said, well, how do we know we just didn't go to ChatGPT and ask it for a business process? And you could definitely do it. It gives you a generic one, but the ability for somebody to shape that is where the intellectual rigor comes in.
Yeah.
And so in some ways that expertise and that human experience is even more important now than it was even 3 months ago.
Yeah, what a great point that you made there. Oh yeah, you just guys went out and did that. I could have done it. I could ask them the same questions or whatever. Could have had that information. I'm sure
it would be sweet, but it's not there.
Well, yeah, you still have to be able. I think you still have to ask it the right questions too, right? And have the intelligence to be able to do that, and as opposed to just, hey, I have this problem. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then will it be perfect for what you're doing or not? But anyway. Okay, we got a little bit off track.
I very much want to digress.
Well, the AI stuff is like, it's hot right now, so everybody kind of wants to know about it. And then obviously, there is talk in the schools that, kids now are just, they don't even write their term papers. They just have it written for them, and it's another form, right? So just something, it'll be amazing. Like both things, it's going to have a lot of positive stuff. And then obviously there's the things that we have to be scared about and worried about and how it can be used.
As it relates to business, and potentially this is a segue, but I found, and I think Steve and I have talked about this in the last 6 months, especially, the role of purpose in team and people and interaction has become much more important. That as people focus on automation and software and OpenAI doing simple tasks and jobs, the ability for a leader to put a group of people together around a common purpose and keep them engaged and focused on whatever that vision or dream is, has become more challenging because of that. And so I think more as we transition with the whole AI enabled society, that sense of purpose and belonging and human interaction and management and delegation and leadership and all those things have now become even more important.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, I mean, we're still people. I still feel we're designed to be with people and interact with people. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's where most of us would prefer to be. So,
yeah. It's how the world moves forward.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Steve, let's get into your background.
Sure. I'm a bona fide native, so you can all pay me for protection. I was born in Idaho Falls, grew up in Idaho Falls, went up to University of Idaho Engineering School. Metallurgy and materials, and I never thought that would be a thing, but it is now, actually. So
what is that?
Metallurgy is we work with mining engineers traditionally to refine metals and other ore out of the ground. So now rare earths are a thing, and lithium is a thing. So I've gotten more. Wow, you got a metallurgy degree? I mean, I don't think U of I has a metallurgy degree anymore. Anyway, so. Then I got into, I was much more of a hands-on guy. So I got into went to work for the government in DC in the intelligence community. So I was in technical operations and traveled around the world doing some crazy stuff. And I think the link with that, especially with Agema, is we got some bizarre technical problems and really difficult things we had to deal with different systems and then you're in the middle of nowhere somewhere, and how to make a piece of equipment work. And so that's a fun challenge to try to figure out. And then sometimes they say it doesn't matter how much it costs, so you just go, you go wild with a solution. But so coming out of that, very hands-on. I like building things. I think I'm a builder at heart too. So got out of that, came back to Idaho, had enough of DC, and done a bunch of different consulting, security work, cybersecurity work. Worked at a men's fly fishing ranch in Montana, GM that place. So I've done a lot of different things. Always had
somehow that
some
seems
small
like
business.
That all goes together. That it's to a fly fishing place in Montana.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Shout out to TWA. Anyway, so yeah, I came back. I moved to Boise. My brothers are here. My parents retired here, and then Andrew and I got to know each other a few years ago, and he retooled Agema, and we decided to try this new thing here. So
that's great. I was going to ask you how you guys connected with each other, but you kind of said that. So we have you. So we have engineering, which you kind of outlined that to us. You're the founder. So let's talk a little bit about your team, because I mean, you have a very dynamic team.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an artist on your team. I think I wrote down you have a technologist, which what is that?
Al.
It's one person.
His name's Al.
His name's Al.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
He's
perfect.
actually kind of a crazy strategist.
Okay.
He's been a chief technology officer and turnaround CTO at a lot of really big companies in Canada. And like everybody on our team, everyone comes with a really diverse background. I think we've got a men's national champion in Romania, a runner, long distance, medium distance runner, with a master's degree in book layouts. And then we have a genius kid, Barnabas, who sold his first software to the EU government when he was 12. Incredibly
gosh.
smart and fun.
Yeah.
Very socially intelligent guy too, which is a rarity for somebody who sold the software.
Kind of
at
like
age 12.
engineers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then, Carrie, our project manager, also, everyone comes with a really diverse background. But to your question, Al is a turnaround CTO, and his real gift though is coming up with really off the wall strategies that tend to work well. So when everybody in an industry is doing one thing, he sees 50 ways to do it the other way, which can generally put a company on a really good trajectory or track.
That's great. Okay. So you got this really great team. Let's talk about what you do. What do you do? What do you do with this team, and what are they capable of doing?
So, Agema Labs started as a problem-solving company. We were doing corporate turnarounds, and we realized that working for founders is a lot more fun than working for investors. And so we started focusing more on founders. And what we found is that we have clients ranging from somebody who's got a simple startup all the way to Fortune 500 executives and even high net worth individuals and the Department of Defense. So we've worked directly with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We've worked with a small company in the Valley here, Fresh Lemon Touch, which does commercial cleaning services for apartment cleanouts. And so we have a really wide variety of clients, but they all generally have a unique problem. They can't figure out who else can solve it. And so my dream was always to create a group of really smart, capable people who work well together and then find some problems to solve and hopefully create happy clients in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it any type of business, any size of business? And then we can get into some of the common struggles that you would see with a business that would need to help. Well, let's just kind of start with the first two. Is it any kind of business, any size of business? Size, we go off revenue.
Yeah, and kind of what we're focused on now. So we historically have been a problem-solving company. So we have a project to increase the speed of a conveyor belt at a shipping facility for one of the three major carriers. They wanted to go 70 miles an hour, and so they couldn't figure out how to do it, and they hired us to figure it out. And we did. That's kind of those one-off complex problems that our team has done.
How fast was it going before you guys came
Like
in?
40 miles an hour. I had the same. It's a good story on its own, but so what we have helped quite a few companies grow, either by solving a problem or taking over the strategy and systems and technology of a company to watch it grow. And our experience collectively, I think Al and I primarily have done quite a few turnarounds, but also started our own companies successfully. And so our focus for the past 3 years has been helping founders, primarily in product and service companies, scale up past 10 million. And so we've typically engaged with a company that's under 250,000 in revenue in one kind of group of clients. And then the other is generally between 1 and 3 million in revenue, which is the second group of clients. So we've developed 2 programs that really focus on driving both of those groups of clients through the next gate or obstacle. And that's what we're focused on now.
All right, that's perfect, because you read my mind on that.
challenge?
Because that was kind of like the lead in, right?
Yeah.
So we're going
Good
to talk about
segue.
that now. It's perfect. Yeah. So let's start with the Startup Accelerator program. Tell me about that.
Well, as you can imagine, you have a pretty diverse team with CIA and CTOs and all of this stuff. So historically, we've been very expensive, and so and that's not necessarily because we charge outrageous amounts. It's just you have a whole team coming into a big company to do things. So what we've done over the past year is take all of the lessons learned from the past 8 years in business and combine them into what we believe a very effective program for a startup to grow past the $1 million mark as fast as possible. And so the accelerator program is a 6-week intensive program where our whole team works directly with the business owner and leadership team of a startup. Often that's just 1 or 2 other people. And we give you a project manager, a graphic designer, software development, strategy, brand development, business systems, all of these things that are a combination of our tools, but most importantly, I think our experience growing companies. And for 6 weeks, we meet weekly and put these things in place. And then we support you for the remainder of the 12-month engagement to make slight adjustments and monitor your progress. And then back it up with if we don't 10x your investment in us, then we'll work with you for free until we do. And so it's very much a one-on-one experience. It's not group coaching or online videos or anything like that. It's one-on-one live people solving your specific set of challenges to get you past that barrier.
And it's pretty fast. I mean, we could throw together a landing page with a custom brand and website, in less than a week. And actually, we found out I think we can go too fast with a lot of people.
A
lot of change, but for businesses. But it's so. I mean, I've attempted to start businesses before, and I've screwed around with websites for 3 months and not gotten anywhere. And all of a sudden, we have a capability that just it looks fantastic and it works. So,
and I think integrating everything is where the value comes from. Like, yeah, we can build a website and build a strategy, but when you have a website that's tied into your customer relationship management with a marketing campaign that's kind of seamless and highly focused, then you can make a lot of headway quickly instead of piecemealing it all together or figuring out over time how to kind of cobble those things together. So it's generally more than a technology problem, I would say.
So just like a bunch of questions rolling in my head on all of this. So the first one I'm thinking about, just from a business owner's side of it, is that what would typically stall me out, or why can't I see growth, or what is happening that all of a sudden my passion, my dream has just stopped. I don't want to sell it. I don't want to close it. What is it typically that I'm missing, or what's the start of that?
So,
did I ask that right?
Yeah, I think the most common thing that I've seen working with companies in this kind of sub $1 million spot, generally you're in business for a couple of years trying to figure it out before they come to us. And so what we see is they don't have a clear roadmap of what they should do next. So they've tried a couple of things. Often it's exactly what everybody else is doing in the industry. For example, we had an amazing client in Portland who does sustainable landscape design and installation and management. And so they're kind of doing what every other company was doing. Smart people, great culture, and they introduced themselves at different businesses and had kind of a piecemeal service approach, charging by the hour. And so they had kind of just stalled out because they were in the midst of 20 other people doing the exact same thing. There wasn't a lot of sophistication, not intentionally, it's just there wasn't a lot of sophistication around the plan or productizing or even the financial model. And so people get stuck. And especially if you're in it every day and you're a business owner struggling to make payroll, like your options are suddenly limited, right? Like your decisions are framed or constrained by the fact that you have to make payroll. So your willingness to take risk or any of those, outside the box thinkings have a much higher repercussion to you in that frame of reference. And so sometimes just having somebody else that can come and support you, but also think of, with Al as an example, think of 5 different ideas that are going to help you stand out. And it's not going to be expensive. It's just thinking outside the box because we're not stuck in the situation can be really valuable on its own. But if you enable it with all the people who could suddenly come up with the creative for those ads, deploy it in 2 days to test it at very low cost. I think we spent like $200 on pay-per-click ads, and that company went from $28,000 a year to over $500,000 within 12 months.
Wow.
And they went from 4 employees 2 part-time, 2 full-time, 13 full-time employees with benefits, 401k, like the whole deal.
Do you guys help with the HR side of it as well?
Yeah, so all the business systems involved in getting to that point,
With all
we're
of
done.
that, to
So
help with the hiring and the training and things like that.
yeah. And the financial model, like
Right.
how are you doing your accounting, and how are you looking at your numbers, and do your products make sense, and how do you quote a project, or
Yeah, like
any of
ordering
those things.
supplies, and are you doing it right? And
Yeah.
along that line as well.
And we're big advocates. It's such a buzzword, but lean is a big deal.
Oh, yes.
Toyota Production
It's a
System
big
and
word,
lean are
yeah.
both things
Yeah.
we're really passionate about. I just get annoyed when people are like, I'm a lean consultant.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And I've actually heard of a few businesses around here that actually have considered themselves lean as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as a business owner too, I mean, have you found that maybe they're not as transparent as they should be, or it's like, no, you cannot hold anything back? Like,
Yeah.
This is like,
Yeah, I can go in so many ways with this. Yeah, it's yeah, people can be in the middle of stressful situations and they can't really even see what's going on. And then, you have independent people come in and start digging around, and I'm sure it feels like we're undressing them and looking into their accounting, which, in certain cases we are. And, that it's people want to be nice to you too, but you sometimes have to figure out, they're not trying to lie to you. They're just trying to be nice. And it's like, the culture seems healthy, but maybe it's not, the culture of a company, which is, actually one of the hardest things to fix is the culture, not even the business. The business processes are pretty straightforward in a lot of cases. They can be different for different businesses, but the culture is pretty tough to fix sometimes and to create. So I think that's probably where it's hard to figure out sometimes, like what exactly is going on. Do people really feel anxious, stressed, not stressed, excited?
what's unsaid.
Yeah, what's unsaid. Yeah, exactly.
kind of what Deion Sanders is doing at the University of Colorado.
Yeah. And it's hard too. I mean, you have to build rapport. And I think one thing we do really well is let people know we're on your team. Like
Right.
we're all on a team together, and your success is tied to ours. And so hopefully that's comforting. We're not like the outside guys trying to make anybody look bad. We're on your team because you hired us
Right.
to make everyone successful.
Yeah.
And
Well-
and like I said before, people don't like change. Like there's lots of examples where somebody's doing something and that's their job, and we come in and look at that and we're like, well, that's a redundant task. You're a human. You should be doing something worth your intelligence and something that's probably a fun, more, a lot more enjoyable to do. But gosh darn it, that's my task. And you're threatening to take that away from them. So that's the other, you're running into that kind of stuff.
It's got to be. I mean, change is the hardest thing.
Oh, it is,
anybody,
yeah.
for most people.
Yeah.
So or if you're the younger generation, change is good every couple of weeks. So,
Right.
right. So
That's actually
It's not good
That's
necessarily.
That's actually a good. I've noticed an age difference, and it's not. I'm not saying people are smarter or dumber, but I think people of an older generation just are not used to especially with software technology, it changes so fast and it gets quicker. Young people are much better able to adapt to those changes, and so it's a challenge.
it makes it easier for them because they've grown up in that, right?
Yeah.
Where the older generation, did not even have a cell phone, when they started off as kids. So it does make it a little bit harder. But then, a larger chunk is starting to embrace it, so that's good as well. Let's talk about the next one, which is Survival to Scale. Tell us about that program.
So the Survival to Scale is that second group of companies that I talked about. So that 1 to 3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it generally, as a company grows, and I think I've done 7 of my own companies. We always have the same set of circumstances. You go 0 to 1 million, and 1 million is a challenge to hit. Once you get to $1 million, all of your problems and challenges to get to 10 million change. Right now you have employees, you have HR, you have structure and discipline that's required to continue that growth on some sort of sustainable track. And so we have the Startup Accelerator to get you from 0 to that $1 million mark. And then somewhere between 1 and 3, as your circumstances change and you aim toward 10, we have a second program called Survival to Scale. And in general, business terms, getting 1 to 3 million is where your survival, and then scale is getting past 10. And so the focus then changes to more systems efficiency, building a culture of constant improvement. That's where lean really comes into play. And lean that's such a buzzword, I'm even scared to say it. The culture is what drives lean. So if you look at like Toyota Production System or Lean Six Sigma, people tend to focus on Excel files and percentages and quality, which is all important. But what really drives it is a culture that's constantly looking to improve. And so as a business owner, Agema Labs is a good example. When I go away on vacation and go fly fishing in Montana or Alaska, then my staff is working to improve our processes, even though I'm not there. And as a business owner, to me, freedom is being able to know that the company is continuing to grow and improve itself as an autonomous machine as we aim toward high revenue marks or achieving our vision. And so those things are all different. They're not things you need as a startup. They're things you need to both have some freedom and financial independence, but also to build an organization that's capable of going past the 10 mark, headed towards 100.
So I'll have you guys give out your website here in a second, but on your website, you have some example of successes and things like that. But I would love to hear you guys tell me a couple projects that you worked on or companies you work with, if you don't mind, and just kind of share us, the story about it. Like, what'd you take on? How did it go? And how did it end up?
Absolutely.
Sure. We've recently been working with an electrical contractor out of a certain state I won't mention. No, out of California, and they're at that spot, going from scale or from surviving to try to scale, and so just working on their business processes and working through what softwares they have. Okay, what softwares do you have? Okay, these two are redundant, so let's get rid of that one, and we can link this one, and figuring out the processes. What are even the roles of the company we were going through? Okay, do you have a defined role over here? You who's doing this job? And oh no, I don't. So even to the basics of going through that. Let's define your role. Let's give you some metrics where you can judge yourself by and how to improve. And so it was just really a simplification too. But
it's all around teaching you. In that case, really teaching their leadership team how to manage moving forward. You get to that point where everybody's doing everything, and now to continue, people have to take defined roles that are documented and understand, what the process of delivering value to the client is, and how do you support that with a team of 45 employees now. And so you can hit those like bumps in the road as you grow. And so smoothing all of that out with a really common understanding of what the strategy is, how things are measured, what success looks like, and then what's the exact steps you need to take in order to get there and manage both quality and performance along the way. That's a good example. The other project we are just on the tail end of, which is pretty sensational actually, was we worked with a medical distributor in the Midwest who went from less than 200,000 revenue to 10.6 million inside of 12 months. And in that case, put everything in place, from sales strategy to ERP systems to warehouse, to automation, RFID, everything, with this amazing woman who is the sole owner, or I think she's got some investors, but they've been in business for 8 years, and during COVID kind of really got hit hard, and we were able to work together to scale exponentially, 14,000% growth in a single year. And in the last 3 years, we were talking with a holster company, that company, and another services company. We've gone from less than 500,000 to over 8 million in revenue inside of 12 months, which is not any sort of guarantee or warranty of future results. But if you can imagine the stress in a good way, the stress and complexity that puts on so fast. But in all cases, we were engaged with them to figure out a solution. It absolutely worked.
So was that that whole process broken, or was it there was stuff that we just need to improve on it, or we just need to kick this out and bring something else in when you work with a company like that with that fast of growth?
Yeah, I mean, with that faster growth, a lot of it is just catching up with the sophistication you need to manage that level of revenue, right? If you have 3 employees and all of a sudden you're 14,000% growth, you got to delegate really quickly and put the systems in place to manage it. But from a how do you do it standpoint, which I think is really where we fit in, is understand the financial model and looking for opportunities there, and then being able to apply repeatable systems in order to scale the company in a way that everybody can manage.
Yeah.
And so looking at the landscape company as an example, we focused on a single campaign about replacing lawns with sustainable plants. And so with a small company, I met somebody the other day who has a pressure washing company, an example. They do like 1.5 million, 3 guys, and they pressure wash. And so this big, pie in the sky target of 1 million is not very much money in the scheme of things, but it's really difficult to get there. And a lot of it is focused, repeatable systems, being able to convey a vision to your employees and have people show up to work every day energized and happy to move things forward and know exactly what they need to do in order to get there, and then bring the technology in to support it. So once those things are all, beautifully working together, then it's an automatic machine and the sky's the limit.
And errors magnify. You start getting higher up, 10 million and over. And so, you make a 10% error when you're doing 100,000. That's one thing, but then you're making 15 million and you do, a 10% error in efficiency. That's a lot of money. So it makes it even more contingent to really focus on processes and repeatable, everything from checklists to do lists and what are the roles just to make sure that you can maintain the right track.
And just creating a foundation, right? Like once you have that foundation, then you don't have to worry about the day-to-day anymore. And your focus then is on the future, which is critical for a leader to be engaged in as far as driving an organization forward.
Well, and then my next question would be to you is that, so you get them into the process, and not all of us are good then at just taking the lead after that. Mm-hmm. So do you offer like follow-up services or just kind of a side consulting for them, or how's that go? So once you've done that?
Yeah. So as part of both these programs, we stay on for a year. So you have an advisor that's
right.
Either the advisor is always somebody who's been a CEO of a $100 million company or higher. In most cases, it's Al or me. And so after you go through this 6-week intensive for a startup, or it's 3 months for this survival to scale, we stick on through the next 12 months and meet monthly. You have direct access to us.
But
so
what
as you
about
come into the
after
challenges,
that? So what happens at 12 months? At that point, I should be able to sustain this on my own, or what happens if I have some hiccups, or
yeah, so usually
just have
3 to 6 months
tendencies?
people are sustaining them on their own, or they figured out that they're not good at it and they bring somebody else on, like an operations manager, which we often help with. Somebody who's like engineering focused, who's we just did that this morning actually. They brought somebody on to oversee their ERP system.
Okay. So really within that 12-month period, you're like, yeah, you'll be able to make this work, or this isn't going to work, is basically what you're able to determine.
I would say it's typically within 6 to
Faster,
12 weeks in that first big sprint. After the 12 months, what typically happens is that it's more spot issues. So they want to launch a new initiative. We had a client, for example, realize that they needed to build their own ERP system from scratch, and our development team came in and built that for them. And so it's the projects, because we have the proximity to clients that we do, we're able to deliver those projects relatively quickly. And so it might be like a new marketing campaigns, or a software development, or a specific strategy project that will come in to do on like an ad hoc basis. And for the most part, we remain longtime friends with everybody we work with. For the most part,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really fun group of people, I think, to engage with.
Mm-hmm.
On our client
It is
side.
great what you guys do. Is there anything you can think of that I've left out, or that we've missed, that you would love to talk about, that is just kind of, it's on your mind?
I want to talk about so many things. AI, the role of AI.
Oh, we can bring you back. That's for sure.
I mean, we'd love to work. So we worked internationally quite a bit in Europe and in the US primarily. And so with this program, we're focused on we're looking for 3 startups to work with, and ideally someone close in the Treasure Valley. This program has just started. We're obviously very confident in it and have a lot of track record and history, but I would love to find some Treasure Valley companies that we could engage with and expand, the success of businesses here.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I'm going to throw this out there too. So listening today, if you didn't hear some key terms or key words and you're a business owner, here's some things to think about that these guys do. So this is the types of work that they perform. So they do video production, strategy, cybersecurity, brand design, web design, business process design, software development, automation, and data science. Is there anything else that we just want to use the keywords out there? So if people were listening and they didn't hear exactly what they want to hear, hopefully one of these
clean floors. Well, maybe not that.
Yeah, I know it's an we would tell our clients you need to focus in on a narrow subset of customers in order to be successful. But
right.
The reality is over the past 3 years, especially, we've worked with everyone from getting 300,000 pounds of medical supplies for nonprofit into the front lines of the Ukraine at the start of the war. We raised a whole bunch of money for firefighters in Milwaukee, and we've done 4 turnarounds and launched 3 written from scratch software. And so we are kind of a complex problem solving company.
For sure.
And so these programs we talked about are based on that collective experience, and I think really unique in the industry, and it gives access to good people the ability to scale their companies quickly.
Well, there's no doubt we just scratched the surface with you two over there and your level of knowledge of what's going on. Definitely we need to do a part 2 with you guys. I think it would be awesome to do that because it
would be fun.
There's a lot of stuff out there, and just what you're doing I think is great. So what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
There's agemalabs.com, AGEMALABS.com, and then you'll see our bios, and you can submit for questions. And
so they on the website they can contact you that
a lot of our
way,
projects are up there that we worked on.
Ask for anybody specific, anything like that, or
no? We're
pretty
team.
small.
We have 9 employees.
Yeah, reach anybody.
Yeah.
Yep. You'll get us.
They're more interesting people than us for sure there as well. So
yeah.
We've got a phone number. You can always call our office, and
that'll be great.
Pretty reachable.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for your time, Andrew, Steve. Thank you so much
Kyle.
for being here.
Thank you for having us on.
We love having guests like this, and we'll definitely make sure that we get it out there so people can see it. And then I just have to say thank you to Associated Insurance Services for sponsoring this. And you can find more information about them on their website at associatedins.com. And again, I'm Kyle Woods with Through the Woods, and thank you for joining us today.